And we're live.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Liberty TV's featured discussion. I'm your host, Kevin Nelson, and I'm joined by UIC's President, Joseph Patterson, and a supporter of the UIC, Mr. Kenroy McLean. The near 13-year saga of Vybz Kartel's arrests, charges, imprisonment, and appeals climaxed with his release from prison this summer, sending fans into euphoria. Tonight, we engage you, our viewers, on this, the latest development. We'll also discuss the amendments to the Maintenance Act of 2005 here in Jamaica, an act that obligates both parents to provide for a child under 18. There are new developments on this as well. My fellow panelists, your take on the latest Vybz Kartel development. I think you're muted, Mr. Patterson.
I was saying I was going to allow Mr. McLean to go first.
Sure. Mr. McLean.
And his video is not on, just in case he plans to join us by video.
Kenroy, are you there? We need your video to be on. Mr. McLean? Okay, I think he might be having some difficulties there.
Sure.
Right, so very exciting and interesting developments with regards to Mr. Kartel and everything that's been going on. It's been the latest news in Jamaica, if I may say so.
Big news, actually. It's, I was quite taken aback by the response in terms of the flood of people who were out in the streets cheering and welcoming, and it was like a really big homecoming. He was really, he must have felt really nice because a big part of Jamaica, I couldn't tell exactly what the mix of the crowd was in terms of whether it's from one strata of Jamaica or another, but it does appear as if he commands a very strong support among the Jamaican people. Many people were just outpouring love and appreciation and welcome and gratitude and just all-around happiness for his return. And I watched a few videos of him speaking. He sounds quite positive, quite upbeat, quite resolute in his own plans and his own appreciation for where he's at in his own personal development. I also saw videos about his fiance and wife to be, plans for a show. So it was quite an excitement. And then I saw some things that we can call shocking news, that we're going to probably talk about later on as well. But my initial takeaway from it is that he's tremendously influential, tremendously loved, and I use that word carefully because it's such a very important word. But he has a lot of support among the Jamaican people, and it speaks volume. It should cause any one of us in whatever area of life that we are to pause and take stock of the response of the people to his release, and what does that mean for Jamaica's justice system? What does it mean for our culture? What does it mean for the outlook of our country when you put all the pieces together?
Right. Well, Vybz Kartel really is an interesting figure in Jamaica, and I would also say a very significant figure if we want to take into consideration the cultural significance. The dancehall is a very significant culture in Jamaica itself. Now, what are the positives that comes to mind? I know you mentioned that he's loved in the country by many, but what are the positives that comes to mind when we think of Vybz Kartel? What has Vybz Kartel done for Jamaica culturally and otherwise?
Oh, well, that's That's a very tough question for me personally because, to be honest with you, I have not been a strong follower or somebody who has paid a lot of attention initially to his growth and his impact on the culture, except to say that you know I know that he was very popular. I saw when he was in court and when he was incarcerated, and then what happened after that and to his release. But in terms of pointing to positives, there are a lot of questions. Rather, there are questions in my mind about our justice system. How does it work in terms of how does one avail themselves of justice? How do our police work in terms of collecting evidence? How does our jury system work in terms of having a jury of your peers that can be relied upon to carry out their functions properly? How does our judges operate? Do they understand fully what it means to implement the judicial system, to go through the processes and to ensure that they're doing due process to protect the rights of those involved, both the victims of whatever challenges or the prosecution or the defendants? Do they make sure that we're following due process, that it's efficient, that it's effective? The investment, the amount of money that was spent on this case, what does it mean? What does it tell us about our justice system? What does it say about our choices, as a people when it comes on to all of this? And then if you take it further now to having to go to the Privy Council, a judicial body outside of Jamaica, for them to point out inadequacies in the way we carry out our local justice system here, and for them to be in a position to overturn that, and for us to even think that it might be good that they're there to assess and check. But remember, that's a colonial institution, the Privy Council. That is a carryover from our colonial past. And they're playing such a very vital and important role in our justice system, to the point where they get to identify significant lapses in the way we carry out justice, and then overturn decisions that were taken here, both in the original decision and the subsequent appeal and the denial of that appeal, and then Mr. Palmer having to appeal to an outside body, and that outside body then say, yes, something is wrong here, we don't think this was done properly, we're going to say no, send it back down, you need to take another look at this again. I guess the positive, Mr. Nelson, is that we are made once again aware that we need to pay attention to our justice system and ask the right questions and make the right actions to ensure we don't have to appeal to any courts outside of Jamaica, and we can trust our local courts.
Well, that definitely seems to be the cry from many corners and many people in Jamaica. And I'm pretty sure when the history is written and when the time has lapsed, the pundits will definitely have this case as an example in terms of whenever we question the justice system that we are a part of in Jamaica. I'm not sure if Mr. McLean, are you back as yet? If not, then we can go ahead and we can play our first. Kenroy, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I was having some small problems with the audio overall, but
I understand.
it's okay.
No worries.
I got some of the conversation.
Right. Are you able to put your video on?
Well, I'm at a dark location right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So you mentioned that you were able to hear some of the discussion. Your take, Vybz Kartel, the latest development.
that's I wouldn't say tough one, but it's a kind of tedious one based on the fact that everything just came out just the other day. It's kind of controversial somewhat. But I got the part stating if he has contributed to like Jamaican's culture, Jamaica overall in a positive way. Well, to be blunt, I'm not seeing it. But when it comes to like say parties, young people enjoyment and so on, because I can say I'm in the era. I was in the era of Vybz Kartel, the whole thing of Gully versus Gaza and so on. So I was a part of it. So I would say for young people overall, or for individuals within my era, it was something for entertainment and nothing more. I would say
Right.
that.
I would love to follow up on that, Mr. McLean. I didn't touch much on the culture, but culture is a very interesting thing. When people talk about culture, they talk about what they're seeing mostly today or maybe some fond memory of the past. But culture is not static. Culture evolves, and there are things which shape culture. Now, we might look at what Mr. Palmer or Vybz Kartel has done and say he has shaped the culture of the Jamaican people, or at least a segment of Jamaica. But I want to encourage us to look at this from another angle. Most dancehall artists, almost all dancehall artists, literally simply regurgitate or tell us what's already happening in the culture. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So
Yeah,
they
it does.
tell us, sorry, Mr. McLean, Kenroy?
Yeah, I'm saying it does. It does. It
Yeah.
does make
So
sense.
oftentimes what we think of as them influencing culture, it's really culture influencing them. And then they now put into artistic form and play back to us what they have taken out of us. So what he and others like him experienced in Jamaica, they then put that into lyrics, sometimes very colorful lyrics, sometimes very artistic lyrics, sometimes very impactful lyrics. And then they give this back to us. And we now, some of us who can't express ourselves well, now get to feel the vibes because we are now experiencing or jumping to or dancing to what we already know, what we believe, what we're thinking, what we're feeling. Sometimes the music evokes in us anger, sometimes it invokes sympathy, sometimes it invokes euphoria or some kind of happiness. But really the culture shaped Vybz Kartel. The culture shaped the young people, and Vybz Kartel is just an expression of that culture. And other DJ artists, for example, I'll give you an example. You go back to the time of Bob Marley. What was happening then? A lot of the issue back then was about Black consciousness. We're still kind of coming out of the colonial past where we were being stifled fully. You had apartheid going on, and you had all that kind of stuff happening. So the artists, they sang about that, the songs of freedom, redemption time, and then also you had the love songs and all of that. But what was going on is we were expressing ourselves, expressing what we're feeling, expressing what we're seeing, and then we look at it and now say Bob Marley shaped the culture, but no, he was a reflection of that culture. He put it in artistic form that connected with people locally, and he made it a national thing, and Gaza has done the same thing, or Vybz Kartel has done the same thing.
Mr. McLean, I want to ask you a question. So Mr. Patterson mentioned that culture is static, which I entirely agree with. Culture definitely, sorry, not static, but it's fluid, and it fluctuates and can change. Now, if Vybz Kartel came with the type of songs that he came out with and so on, what shaped the influence? What do you believe, Mr. McLean, shaped the influence of Kartel to come up with the songs that he did? And was there an artist before him or artiste before him that would have influenced him?
Yeah, well, I think his life experiences overall, his life experiences, because normally individuals would sing or portray what they have been through in life, right? So that would have been his thing. The way how he dressed, the way how he brought across himself. Based on his music, he mainly spoke of style, right? Style, the way he's living, females, and so on. So it's basically his life and how he lived his life and how he portrays the world, how he sees the world, right? And a lot of individuals can resonate to it because they're moving in the same direction. Because in Jamaica, as you can see, Jamaica is like it's a tit for tat country, I would say.
Right.
So if a trend is going on, everyone is moving towards that trend. And if an individual, a specific individual, can say put that trend in place, which was Vybz Kartel, he was like the trendsetter, right? So anything he said or did within that particular time, it was considered the trend or considered to be the in thing at the particular time. Yeah, so Vybz Kartel overall, that's basically his thing, I would say. That's how he
Right.
basically curved and did away with the whole Jamaican culture and so on. But the thing about the culture overall, that Mr. Patterson, going back to that, it is evolving. Evolving. It basically depends on influence, not only influence within the country and also external influences as well. Because a lot of things, if you notice that Jamaica is kind of Americanized somewhat. Everything that is being done or being said in America, because that's basically what we watch on TV. America. That's what we watch. Everything that we watch is all America. So when it comes to that basically influence as well, a little American culture along with ours, and it just basically evolves and builds something in between. That's how I see it.
Right. So there's a national culture and then there's the global culture. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Do we have the video ready? The first video to play?
Is it O'Shane that's playing videos?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So not sure if we have the first video ready to play.
Which video? Which one do you want to play? I see a couple here from my end.
Yes, there's one where a gentleman. There's one where
ahead.
the gentleman was speaking about the message that Vybz Kartel had
Yes.
released on.
Let's see.
What was the first words Vybz Kartel utter out of his mouth when he walked out of that prison? When a reporter asked him about his experience in the prison, what did he say? He said, "Tell the youths them to stay away from crime. It no make no sense. It's waste of time and it's waste of life. Prison or hell." Those are the words of Vybz Kartel when he bust out of the prison. But I acknowledge, say, it's just a few vloggers, me say, I talk about it. But the massive of the people, them running up and down with this bag of mix-up. Vybz Kartel a kiss woman. Shorty said this, Shorty this, Shorty that. And a bag of mix-up. And I say, how Vybz Kartel deliver a message like that to the youths them, and it not trending? Me know not happy if you see Vybz Kartel come out. I should say some of you. But come on, man. More want to see the eye them a run with that little piece of clip there where Vybz Kartel a send a message to the youths. And
I think it's appropriate for us to say here in Jamaica, as we say in the video, what the Ras was saying. What the Ras was saying was that Mr. Palmer came out with a very positive message upon leaving prison. He emphasized the idea that this was the first message that came out of his mouth. But he also went on to say many over social media, especially the young people, since we're already mentioning that Vybz Kartel have a huge young fan base. He was mentioning that. Well, and I'm not sure if it's what are the percentages of people who are tapping into that message versus other things, as the Ras was saying. However, my reflection from that is that was a positive message that came from Mr. Kartel there, in terms of telling the youths, don't come here. How important is Vybz Kartel to the young people of Jamaica?
Well, I mean, I guess you can say, will they listen to that? But it's good. It's I love the fact that the gentleman pointed out that he made such a clear and positive statement, but unfortunately, that doesn't seem to sell. So he was pointing out that all the vloggers run with everything else, and neglected that very positive message. But I want to roll back a little bit to the issue of culture, because that's really what we're still talking about in a sense. And we said that culture evolves, which is true, and many people believe that culture is influenced by music, which is true. We have identified that music is influenced by culture, which is also true, meaning it's a reflection of what we're experiencing. But then culture is shaped by governance, by how we're governed, how our government operates, how it influences us, because the biggest influence on a people is its government. Our government controls our schools, our education system, our curriculum. Our government controls the way our government operates, how it interacts with the people. Our government determines whether or not a culture of corruption becomes the norm by having an anti-corrupt system or a corrupt system. Our government determines how our police behaves and whether or not it's a positive or negative interaction on the society and how that evolves. For example, back in the day, they used to call policeman Babylon, and it was a very negative connotation. And many young men were afraid of the police in a way that they shouldn't be afraid of the police. And many citizens would not report on criminals because they couldn't trust the police. So all of these things shape the culture. Then you also have garrisons and ghettos and squatter communities that were created by political influences. And those spaces developed in whatever way they developed and created outcomes that they created, which then influences how all the other societies in the country interact with each other. You have downtown versus uptown. You have the bad man and the don in the community who is being funded or protected by politicians and then become very powerful. Now, this is what Vybz Kartel and many others then sing about. You also have an economy. Our government determines how effective our economy is. Does it provide enough jobs? Does it provide enough high-paying jobs? Do we produce enough high-quality graduates from our schools? And then, so if you have communities where many people now are low-wage to no-wage earners, and many people become dependent on remittances to survive, and many of them are now breeding up in their communities, boys without work and girls without work, and that happens. And then you have silos of prostitutions developing, first females and then male prostitutes. Now, all of this mixes together to create what you then call the culture. And then now somebody like Vybz Kartel comes along and finds a creative way of expressing all of that just touches a nerve, that connects with those who are experiencing it and even those who are observing it. You might even have some other folks who may not otherwise like what is going on, but then because of how creatively he expresses it and the beat and the stuff, they get into it. But I ask you this: could Vybz Kartel or anybody who is singing anything that we might consider not so wholesome, could they influence anybody who is cultured and educated in a way that causes them not to find that to be entertaining, or that to be influencing, or that to be elevating? Could such a production, whatever the production is, whether it's Kartel or somebody else, don't we have a situation where people gravitate to what they're conditioned towards? Or is it that all of us are susceptible? If somebody comes out, an artist comes out and busts out in whatever it is, we're all susceptible to being influenced by it? Or does it mean you have to be a particular way or mindset for that to influence you? I wonder if you understand what I'm asking, Mr. Moderator and Kenroy.
I think I think what you mentioned is a very important aspect of this discussion, and I think it really depends, and I think this is where the issue becomes complex in and of itself. I remember some years ago, I'm sure many Jamaicans will recall Dr. Carolyn Cooper, who is a strong advocate of the dancehall culture, and even one who embraces what is called slackness in dancehall. Dr. Cooper is always making it clear that this is a part of our culture coming back from our ancestral African culture and so forth. And I think, yes, oftentimes dancehall is associated with what would I say, inner city communities and so forth. Not always, but in so much consideration. And so I think, yes, definitely it becomes complicated when we look at it like this. And it depends on who is receiving the message and how they're receiving the message. Mr. McLean, your take?
Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah, I kind of understand what Mr. Patterson is saying, and my take on it would be it's hard for someone not to basically take on or resignate to something that's basically speaking to them, right? So it would depend on what level of society you are at, because I think there are levels to society, as you would have uptown and downtown, as you basically said, and Cartel was basically the one that was speaking of downtown mostly, of the inner city youths and so on. So as I said, he basically spoke about his life growing up overall, or what he's seen on a day-to-day basis. And what he's seen on a day-to-day basis is what a lot of young youths or females and so on within his vision is basically seeing or doing. So they're going to resonate to it, right? So everyone within is, what would you say, his type of living, where he's from, you would say the ghetto, they're going to basically gravitate to his songs and so on. So it's going to be hard to be in that position and not like to hear where you're at, where you're planning to go. Because if you should listen to his songs, he's speaking about the hard life, how hard it is, and know as to how he is in life. He wants to drive this, he wants to have this kind of girl, he wants to do that. And a lot of individuals within his little circle, or you would say Jamaican people in the dance hall, that's what they want to hear, because that's the type of life that they're living at the moment. So
Mr.
It's hard.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I'm saying it's hard not to like it or gravitate to what he's saying. And that's basically, you would say 70 to 80% of Jamaicans right now. Yeah.
So Mr. McLean, what you've just said, and you're so right. And by the way, I'm quite impressed with how eloquent you are at explaining this. But what you just said a while ago, what you really just said a while ago is that those who have led our country to this point created a solid audience for Vybz Kartel's genre of music.
Yeah, definitely.
So when they now turn around and say that he is influencing the youth and want to point to him as a significant part of the problem, and that's how it really go. He is not the problem. And I've always said this. The dancehall artists with their lyrics, however lewd it might be, however disgusting it might appear, however ugly it might seem to you, they are really expressing something for which there's an audience.
Yeah,
and if there's not a strong enough audience, they wouldn't be expressing it, because it would have died. If you come out every day and start to sing, and you try bust out, and you sing and say, "Hey, diggle, diggle, the cat on the figgle, the cow jump over the moon," and nobody not paying no attention to you, you get one like, you get one share. But if you come out and say, "Skin this, skin that, skin this," and you get 1 million likes and whole heap of share, that's incentive and motivation to continue. And then you get called to say, "Come and perform here, so, and perform there, so." You're motivated. If you're not getting a call, if you're not getting a likes, and if you're not getting a share, you're going to stop. But because those who have led us thus far have created an audience, cultivated a market for what you have to sell, and it a sell, and some of them get fearful of you now because it a sell, and you might actually have more influence than them in due course, then you might want to adjust now and see if you can kind of quiet down. So you might actually train your justice system a little bit more on that person, because there are many people who have done many things that are bad, for which they have more evidence and have clearer everything, but you don't see them pursue the many other people this kind of way. And so while I have no particular affinity to Mr. Vybz Kartel, I never used to pay attention to be honest with you, until this started happening, and I started to go and look it up some more and pay more attention and look into it some more. And what I am seeing here is that he was given special treatment in a negative sense, meaning there are so many murders and so many bad things that should get serious attention and should be seriously prosecuted. But it seems as if only select some people sometime and pursue them, and that is not justice. Justice must be blind. Justice must be, it doesn't matter who you are, what you are, where you have been, how much you have, how much influence you have, or how much influence you don't have. It should pursue you with the same level of vigor to ensure that we get to the bottom of this and prevent others from doing something that we perceive that may be wrong or bad that you have done. Am I wrong here, Mr. Moderator and panelists?
No, you've touched upon some very important points. Definitely, we just examined the business side, the business aspects of the cultural discussion that we've been having so far. So I think that those are some significant. I'm not sure if Mr. McLean wants to respond, but I think definitely those points are significant in the towards the contribution of the discussion itself. Mr. McLean, you have anything to say before we want to look at a music video from Mr. Kartel? But yes, go ahead, Mr. McLean.
Yeah, I'm saying it is significant indeed. He has touched, Mr. Patterson, you have touched on a lot of points, but definitely, Vybz Kartel, as you said, he's a product. He's a product of Jamaica, a product of the society that we're living in, and he's just basically the voice of poor people overall, their temptations and what they're aspiring to do and where they want to end up. And as I stated, 80%. So you're correct. They have shaped our country, by which the vast majority of our country is basically in Vybz Kartel, is what you would say in his class or his level right now. So it's definitely a society thing, and he should not be blamed. Or as he said in an interview, he should not be reprimanded for influencing kids, because if you're looking to him, Vybz Kartel, to influence your child or to say be a role model for your child, you have lost as a parent.
Right. Kind of remind me, Mr. McLean, of the famous American basketball player Charles Barkley saying, "I'm not a role model." So I think in the same way, Mr. Kartel was making it clear, you know what, this is the role of influence really falls into the hands mostly of parents. So most people would actually disagree with that, but I found it to be a very interesting point, and I somewhat agree with Mr. Kartel there. I'm not sure.
I mean, what should really happen is in a well-developed society, bad influences. Let me just use that phrase. If in a free and fair society, a free and open society, a society which is well governed but free, what would happen is a bad influencer would be ostracized by the response of his community. So, for example, there's a time in our history when if you got pregnant out of wedlock, you would be ostracized by your society, right? For example, because the society was brought up to believe that you should only get pregnant if you're married. And And so if you're not married and you're pregnant, then the society would make you feel uncomfortable. So what that would do, positive or negative, many persons would try to avoid getting pregnant before they're married, and you would have a certain kind of family structure being developed. There are other elements of cultures in society. For example, that you have societies where it's frowned upon if you're not a high achiever in school. Singapore is one such society. So every child feels highly motivated to do very well in math and English, the sciences, a second language. And they all know, based on the society that their government has created, that if they do well in school, if they perform at the level that is expected of them, they're going to get the best jobs in that society, and they're going to be able to own a home, fully take care of their families, and retire with a good pension benefit, and to be respected in their society. And so because that framework has been created and honored, you can't just talk about it, you have to honor it too. You can't just talk about go to school, study a book, and whatever. And then when you do that now, it don't deliver. That's a problem. So in a country like Singapore, the culture that they develop is their young people now. Their young people put them head in them book. And they're outstanding in mathematics, outstanding in physics, in chemistry, in biology, in sociology, in geography, in robotics, and all forms of derivatives in the different spaces of professional disciplines. And when they do that, they have great jobs. In Singapore, their people are so productive that they have a hard time finding people to do what we might consider the menial tasks in their society. So they have to import labor to do that. Now in Jamaica, we produce an excess of persons who don't have enough skills and competences. We produce too many of those. Singapore produces too few of those. So two different culture emerges. One culture emerges in being highly productive, therefore generating a high level of GDP, therefore creating a high level of wealth that results in a very high quality and first-class society. In our country, our leaders create a society, a high level of incompetences, a high level of inefficiencies, a high level of poor productivity, a high degree of begging, a high degree of dependency on remittances, a high degree of persons who have a disconnection between cause and effects, and how to understand what it means to produce in order to earn, in order to enjoy a certain style of life. And then now they're reduced to wishing and hoping and looking for a break in either athletics or entertainment, because they see those as the only two avenues. I want to be a Usain Bolt, nothing is wrong with that. Or I want to be a world boss, nothing wrong with that. But that becomes the narrow confines. And those who are not pursuing that just give up and kind of resort to a monotonous form of life, knowing that they will never make it unless they get a visa to escape this country. That is the harsh reality we need to look at and understand. And sometimes we get carried away and distracted by just the optics of a Vybz Kartel and just the frivolity of a Vybz Kartel and not the substance of what he represents. And many like him, whether it's the Ninja Man or the bounty killers of the world, understand how this society shaped them and how they play back to us and make it entertaining. But it's more than entertaining. It is damn serious, because it's talking about whether or not we're moving in the right direction or we have gone off the guardrails and are heading for destruction.
Many people in Jamaica would definitely agree with your points there. So we're talking about the systemization of the Jamaican people and their cultures and so forth. I'm wondering if we have that second video. It's a video of Mr. Kartel singing a song. Do we have that video?
Let me see. Mr. O'Shane, do we have that video? I didn't see it in the lineup, unfortunately, from my screen here. But let me share. I'll share one with you while I'm waiting for Mr. O'Shane, which speaks to the same similar thing. But I'll share this with you, if I can. I hope I can, Mr. Moderator.
I'm sure you can.
Here we go. Here we go. This is it.
And gun sound.
It a fire military standard.
Scary violent videos.
Them coulda run in the church.
Wrong. And gun sound.
It a fire military standard.
Scary stuff.
Gunman party, thugs and Barbie, guns and cartridge.
But hold on, we've heard this tune already.
You think a little gun, bad boy sit down, come on. Bad men, wicked men, not take one fit toy. Me make lucky na me and more kill and destroy. Gunman the rich, you call it gunman the rich.
So what's changed now since then?
I remember when I'm a youth and I come up back in our days. When I say you never have bad man, when I say you never have gang, when I say you never have gun, but what we are saying is that them man then at them time there, if I'm me and them a war, then we tell them see me. Them youth and nowadays, them a go for your mother, them a go for your brother, them a go for your sister. Even back then, there was a sort of refuge where no care man a look for you if you do something. At the time, you're good guy, him afraid, him not hide. A middle lady, a young man, I come for you nowadays.
The people that is singing now is not looking at the things that are happening around them.
But they are looking at the things that are happening around them, and it's garrisons and guns and murder.
A murder rate that gets higher.
Murder we deal with. Murder, thing that.
When I come out in the 70s and my first word is if you're coming from war in a bus or a car, make love and not war. Because we are the Vikings, the Pigeon Gang, the Spanglers. Oh, come on. Gang from Trenchtown, Bacawal, Southside, Tel Aviv, Dunkirk. We have Warwick Hill. Everybody is the same thing that gets out of hand. We have a set of youth that they have no respect for life. Life was not better rose back then, like how it's not now.
Is it worse now?
Yeah. It's out of hand. When you tell a man, when you sing about the type of guns and the type of way that you handle and the type of way that you murder.
Any head we boss can't refix.
Music is so powerful that the youngest of mind, they catch on to it quicker than going into school and education.
Hey, I'm Joey, and I'm one of the 30 AI voices from SpeechLab. You listened to this video until now and you probably couldn't tell I'm not a real human voice. That's because I understand exactly what each phrase is saying, and I know how to put it.
Taking out the video.
At the hospital, them go, something happen to someone, is every second of it.
A recent Don Anderson poll highlighting crime and violence as Jamaica's most glaring post-independence failure. A second making a link between music messaging and rampant criminality.
Honestly, maybe there might be a little tenuous connection to how people are encouraged to be a certain kind of individual. That is what I would say, because it is something that is seen as an important part of being a strong man with power.
But cultural studies professor Donna Hope, herself questioning Don Anderson's choice of questions about dancehall's impact on violent crime.
Usually now I ask to see the poll question and how it was framed. So that question was set in a very specific way to get positive responses to the question. To what extent do you think that dancehall music contributes to crime in Jamaica? And so once you ask people to what extent, you are saying to them, dancehall music contributes to crime in Jamaica. Tell me how much you think it does.
So what is the question you would ask?
I would ask, Do you think that dancehall contributes to crime? If you answer yes, you go down to this question. If you answer no, you go to another question. That way, people would have a chance to respond. And then my 5 responses would be set in the way that researchers do. 2 of them leaning to a yes, 1 in the middle as neutral, 2 leaning towards a no. That is how you do it, so that people are able to think it through themselves. Because remember, Anthony, the question you asked, there are so many people who actually support this music. Where were they in this poll?
Crime waves often followed by blame falling on politicians and dancehall. DJs themselves not immune from the shooting sprees. Then or no. Lives damaged, if not taken, and assaults posted online for all to see.
Social media is now able to show a wider set of people on the internet some of the things that artists may have been going through in the past. Silk Boss is not the first artist who has been boxed up and thumped up and kicked up, but there were no video cameras and smartphones to put it on places like TikTok and Facebook and Instagram. Many people who are neither part of dancehall, involved in dancehall, visit dancehall or support dancehall can speak about it because they are able to see visuals, video footage of things that are happening, which would never have been brought to their attention without the impact of the internet, social media, and the availability of these things, the hardware.
How if you just say a man just make video with man in a body bag and gonna run around the car and all them things, and you to watch that and who not talk about say that have nothing to do with nothing. It's mad, no mad man, because you can make little money here, so no money there, so money here, so you think say money is the power. Look here, man. You say today for you and tomorrow for me, it's straight going on. So you really depend on the IRS right now. And you can make some money and go for girls and champagne and all them something there. But watch down the line. Because the same thing where your project out there going to turn back and bite you.
Dub poet and radio host Muta Baruka taking to social media this week to decry current trends in dancehall. This time, trap.
What are you dealing with? After Jamaica put the world on the map, I'm going to say Jamaica put the world on the map because the world was so such a future where Jamaica come rise up that with the music and liberate a whole heap of people that them distress in our apartheid system, in our struggles, right across Europe and Africa. The music uplift the people them and carry the people them on a certain level. And now we see some little youth are going like them now have no sense.
We're talking about dancehall in the 80s and 90s and at the start of the millennium. This is 2022. You can't expect the guys to be singing about the society is different. Look outside. Everybody have a car. And when you hear the teachers quarreling about money, they tell you they want a car and a house. Everybody gone materialistic. People want things. So we are in the era of things. And dancehall is talking about the things that people want.
Pull up another R, yeah, bare feelings to my car.
Even the new reggae ambassadors, the reggae revival, they behave very differently from the reggae musicians of the 1970s. None of them are telling you that they're going back to Africa to live. Again, the music is coming from now. So if the music is more violent, there's a lot more violence in the society. The music is more materialistic.
But shirt about jeans, much with a polo, but top coat, rich in my prime, and I the black coat.
If you want people to sing different songs, give them the raw material. Pensioners can't even get the little pension. I know people 10 years now they're supposed to get the pension. They don't by the NIS office battering and struggling. These are people who serve this country. So people are struggling and suffering. And many people have no power in the system. As you say, they are powerless. This is where we need to fix it so that the songs that are coming out will talk about other things. Not the powerlessness, the poverty, and the anger that comes because of all of that. This is what we need to fix.
Violence and music, politics and poverty, never-ending talking points in Jamaica as the screws get even tighter.
It's sorry for Magadag and Magadag turn around and bite you. And right now, I tell you now, when I mess up the thing, when I carry the thing down right down in the abyss, when I carry the thing on a level and nowhere, I tell you, it's dangerous. Dangerous. Oh.
You know, this is a discussion that's been going on since I attended high school on North Street, and even beyond that, even before that. Now, for me, the reality of the situation is there's some good points that was made in the video. For me, the reality of the situation is that because we can't accuse every young person who listen to dancehall music or hip hop or whatever music that promotes violence or the shooting of guns or whatever. We can't accuse every young person to say that they're going to go ahead and commit crime because they listen to the music. My concern is with the vulnerable of the population. And so there are certain youths and there are certain communities infiltrated by the historical political involvement, the involvement of politics within the garrison communities and so on, in terms of corruption, in terms of, the talks that has always been said of political parties being influential in bringing guns to certain communities and so on. So I think that's definitely something that we have to take into consideration. My focus would be on the vulnerable communities or the vulnerable youths who are being affected, who, when they hear this music and when they are intrigued by the things that are being said in the song,
so
then they will perhaps be affected.
How do they hear this music? How do they hear the music? How does anyone hear? For me, I had to go and search for Kartel to hear Kartel. I had to go and on YouTube and say Vybz Kartel, and I want to hear what. And I've listened today. I listened to about 15 of his songs today in preparation for this event. I found myself tapping to a few. But how do people hear these songs, right? How do they? Nobody, I believe, except for and this is a problem in Jamaica where you have people being allowed. For example, when I was a boy, and even now, you hear it on buses. You go up on bus, and they're playing music on buses with school children and anybody at all. Doesn't matter whether it's school children. The driver of the bus or those who control the bus feel that they have a right, a God-given right, to share with everybody on the bus whatever genre of music they like, whatever they want to share with. And when I was a boy growing up, I remember I used to be like,
I'm not a lawyer, but have you heard that Jamaican dancehall DJ Vybz Kartel's unaliving conviction was recently overturned and now he's been set free? Well, I read through the entire case, so let me tell you what happened. I actually recapped this story.
I'm sorry, I don't know what happened there. Somebody did something in the backstage.
Okay.
But when I was a boy, I used to be like, why do I have to suffer and listen to this when I don't want to listen to this? And I just play whatever, and everybody on the bus have to listen to what they play. When I go to some other developed countries, like Canada, the Netherlands, and Singapore, you go on the bus and it's quiet and peaceful. You can put in your headset, and if you want to listen to Vybz Kartel or to some classical music or to Bob Marley or whatever you want to listen to, you can just do that. But the driver of the bus would be breaking the law if he turns on and start to play his favorite song over the system. So I asked the question, where do the vulnerable, Mr. Nelson, hear this? Why are they being forced to hear it? Or is it that they're going to seek it out themselves? Are they going to seek it out? And if they're going to seek it out, it means I'm already corrupted. Because if it's either you're doing it for a research project, you're going to seek it out for Mr. I see a fourth person on, Mr. Nelson. Are you trying to join the discussion? I see a fourth person on, says UIC Jamaica. Okay.
Not sure what's going on there. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So my question is, how are they getting? How is anybody, vulnerable or not? How are they getting this? Because in a free society, you would choose whether you want to listen to Vybz Kartel or you want to listen to Elvis Presley, or you want to listen to Beyonce. You're like, so you shouldn't be. Nobody can influence you unless you want to be influenced. For example, there are two TV stations in Jamaica and a whole heap of opportunities to watch videos on YouTube and Netflix and other stuff around the world. So if you don't want to watch TVJ can't force you to watch them and be influenced by them. CVM can't force you to watch them and be influenced by them. Fox News in the US can't force you to watch Fox News. CNN can't force you to watch CNN. So why is it that we want to blame somebody for producing a product which he doesn't force anybody to come and absorb his product? He doesn't say, I am making you a captive audience and you must sit down and listen to this and therefore be influenced by it. Could it be that you're already influenced by your society and it creates a leaning inside of you where you now lean towards certain things? So for example, when you go online, you're not going to look up calculus and how to master calculus, derivative functions, or how to master nuclear physics, or understanding biology, particularly neuroscience. You don't choose to look up that on TikTok or anywhere. You choose to go and find something that says skin out and whatever the thing is. And because that's what you want. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. McLean or Mr. Nelson, because I really want us to get to the heart of this and not just be superficial about it, you know.
Kenroy, you want to respond?
Yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Even though there are set algorithms for different regions, there are set algorithms because
which you can overcome. Which you can overcome.
You can overcome with IP addresses and so on.
No, hold on. Mr. I sorry to bug you, but I want to pull this in because I want to really nail this one quickly, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Moderator. Here's what happened. When I go on TikTok, I get only certain things coming into me. Things I don't want to watch, things I don't want to see. So I go into the little box at the top and type in certain things. I want to watch Patrick David something because I love the talk with them have and the kind of thing them reason about. I'm going to search that and it pop up. And because I watch two of them, then TikTok say, oh, you like that? So two more here. I'm going to start getting more and more. And it start to reduce the content that they think that I should want to watch as a Jamaican, because I noticed TikTok send only certain things to Jamaicans. When I'm in Canada and I'm traveling and I'm in Canada, it send me certain, say, oh, you're in Canada. Canadians prefer to watch them things. I'm going to go to Singapore. They say, oh, you're in Singapore. So every time I go to a different country, I realize the base country is my country. When them bring on the screen for my country is often some people just behave like some hogs and dogs and carrying on. And when I go to Singapore, I see them talk about investment and building your generational wealth profile and how to get into the fintech space. And so rotted. So this I go on to Singapore. I go to Canada. They're talking about mental health and what do you call it now? Nutraceuticals and so whoa. I'm gonna go to England and for them thing I talk about immigrational issues and how to overcome stuff when it relates to getting your NHS or whatever the thing is and whatever. So every one of the country the TikTok bring up different things for them. In a Jamaica is a bag of foolishness and whole heap of fool talk going on all the time and whatever. And so it's not the algorithm alone. You can program the algorithm by searching for different things. And the algorithm will say, this Kenroy like. So let's start give Kenroy more of what him like. And sometimes someone pop up and ask you, would you like to see more of this content? After a long time. And I say yes or no. If I say yes to the wrong thing, I get more of the wrong thing. You follow me, Mr. Nelson? Does it make sense?
Yes, man. Definitely that's definitely the business of the algorithm and of course the prejudice that comes with that as well.
But there's a responsibility on our side to guide the algorithm to where we want to go so that it becomes reprogrammed, because the algorithm have a stereotype of Jamaicans.
Of course.
And so and by the way, if you were running a business, Mr. Kenroy, if you were building TikTok, you build it and you own it and you want to benefit from it, I bet you would have written a similar algorithm to give people what they want so that they will come back for more. So Yeah, because that's going to build up your business. So I'm not blaming TikTok. TikTok is giving Jamaicans what Jamaicans want. And those of us in Jamaica who want better for ourselves and better for our picnic, we have to reprogram the algorithm by telling it what we want and cause it to give us more of that. And as a result, elevate yourself. But again, it comes back to governance now. If you have 70% of your nation failing every year from high school, then the mental development might not be one where this child is going to go and say, permaculture technology, how does this work? How does one become a solar engineer? Blah, 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 blah. So our picnic them now shift their mind to that because we have not been able to influence them after so many years in school. You know, when you add it up, 15, 16, 17 years in school, and they still don't have the kind of inquisitive mind that will cause them to jump over the allure of whatever we think they shouldn't go for and to be allured for things where we think they should be going for. Back to you, Mr. McLean.
There's a thing that I believe in, the decade change. The decade change. What they basically do, or what I have seen that have been done over a period of years, because I've been on this herd for like say 1 score and a decade. So I'm roughly 33 right now. And this is how things take effect. 10 years. They put something in place and they allow 10 years to pass with that continuous feed of it, and it automatically becomes law, or it automatically becomes what is now in. They just need 10 years because if someone is basically 2 or 3 years old, 3-year-old right now, and you should give them 10 years of one thing or 10 years of a particular thing, when they are, say, 12, when that 10-year finishes, when they're 12, there's nothing that you can say to change them from that because they have been getting that teaching for 10 years.
Absolutely.
So I've been always saying that is the situation as to how they gradually change things in this society, this world overall.
You're absolutely right. Mr. Nelson, Mr. McLean, in the 1960s, and I love talking about history because if you don't know your past, you have no idea where you're going in terms of your future.
That is correct. You end up right where you're coming from if
you
you don't know where
repeat
you
it.
were.
You repeat the cycle, it only get worse. Because what happened is, what technology has done, gentlemen, technology has allowed us to be our worst self faster. You understand me? We can either use technology and accelerate and go very high, or the technology can allow us to go very deep faster. So what TikTok and social media is doing to us, or we're allowing it to do to us, it is allowing us to quickly descend into the abyss because we are now feasting on the worst things about us instead of feasting on the best. So let's back up a second. In the 1940s or 30s even, you might remember the Frome riots in 1938. This is when Jamaicans, black men and black women, the downtrodden in our society, which by the way, the best cultured Jamaican then, because we believed in ourselves. We had a vision and a dream of being a free people. And we were willing to do anything to secure that. To the point where in the 1930s, leading up to 1938, we got so vociferous and so militant that our colonial masters and those that they were working with as middlemen here got so afraid that they had to go scratch them head and say, hold on. Them people look like them are getting to the point now where we might have another Stony Gut experience. We might have another Paul Bogle. And they might just walk again. And they might just arm themselves again. And they might just march again. And we might get something worse. I don't know if you know the history of what Paul Bogle and his compatriots did. It was brutal. By the way, they marched in peace, and don't forget, they went in peace and they tried to get a peaceful resolution. But the powers that be, Governor Eyre, that wicked, horrible man, spit on them. And my people rose up in no uncertain term and said, we're not taking this. And because of that, Governor Eyre was discharged, and they made changes to make life a little better for the people. But the problem is they always only make it a little better, but they have a long-term plan to keep us in bondage. And so come 1938, the powers that be saw a glimpse of Paul Bogle in the people, not just in a Paul Bogle, let's see, in the people. And they got so afraid that they say, you know what, we better give them the right to vote. See if we can calm them down a bit. And so the horror come up some rules and say you can now vote in 1944. And because we're such a trusting people, that's one of our biggest problems. Eh? We were such a trusting people, especially if the people that come to us look white. We just get very trusting and say, okay, they must mean well. And so they bought into the idea about the right to vote and never paid attention to the system of voting. And so they use that right to vote and the system to divide us into what always worked: tribes, two tribes, tribalism. And those two tribes from 1944 to 1962 followed the guidance and directions and training of their colonial masters so well that they got us to first start to use sticks and stones, and then eventually knives and machetes, and then eventually guns upon each other. This is where Kartel is coming from. This is where Ninja Man is coming from. This is where Bounty Killer is coming from. This is where garrisons, gangs, ghettos, squatting, and all the things that today we're struggling with. This is where gang culture come from. This is where gunman thing come from. Because those who we trusted to lead us come to our boys and place a gun in them hand. The boy, them couldn't do it. Them couldn't go import the guns and ammunition. Even today, a high-level people working in consult with low-level people and having middlemen and a whole militant system. Every one of these two parties have them own gangs and have them own societal structures that they create in communities to carry out their objectives. And they train the people and guide the people and then come on public television, come tell we that they want to fix crime and violence when they are the epitome, the architects, the originator, the cultivator, the farmers of the crime and violence in this country. And then when we little boy them now come and try to express themselves, try to make little money out of what they know the people will relate to. And then bust out because the people make them bust out. Shabba Ranks him bust out because him influence we. Him bust out because the people them see themselves in him. The people them see their aspirations in him. Just like how they were taught to see their aspirations in the Don in the community. If the Don can a while up politician, if the Don can have how much little business in the community, if the Don can get them school fee and bus fare and lunch money, if the Don can decide what is the laws of the jungle and enforce it, then the Don them have to look at. If they look on the teacher, what they see the teacher hungry. The teacher can't drive car. Some of them, most of them. The teacher can't finish build them house. Look at the police. The police do things on the side and behind the side. So they now respect the police. They now respect the teacher. And by God, they now respect the politician either. They revere him because he's in a power and come down and give them little tokens. They're doing it right now in Northeast St. Elizabeth, in my community. You have politicians come here and come to church because they see me giving out little scholarship. They come and say, we're going to give more than Mr. Patterson. Who'll eat more? And that's the kind of thing that they do. And they come and they give out the money. But they know how they're going to get it back. They know how they're going to extract this back out of us. And then the Vybz Kartels of the world come and sing about it. They sing about the corruption, they sing about the disease, and then they sing about their desire to escape it. And when they escape it somewhat in terms of becoming wealthy, because the ghetto not come out of them, it's just that money now is available. And now they can live a certain way and they can talk about it and flaunt it. And the girls can see it. And the girls say, well, I want to attach myself to that because that is my ticket out. So I want us to be real. And the real issue is Vybz Kartel is not the problem. Something else is. Someone else is. And I submit to you that the problem is on the floor of Parliament and those who sponsor it in the PSOJ oligarchs.
So a message to the traditional political parties and a message definitely to the voters. Indeed. I think it would be good if we kind of ended up this segment by looking a little bit briefly on the man himself. So Kartel said in a recent interview that if he were to personify the concept of determination, that would be him. So 13 years incarcerated, never giving up hope, still making music in prison, bringing his fiance from the jail cell to Jamaica itself, even purchasing 3 months ago a BMW, stating that he believed without a doubt that he would be released. Some speak of the determination of the man, some speak of the intelligence of the man. Some even wonder, based on him teasing, that he would run for member of parliament. Your brief take on this.
You want to see a video on it before we go?
Yeah, sure.
I saw a video on it. There are two parts to it. I'm gonna jump to the second part because that's where he spoke of his political
aspiration.
Yeah, I don't even want, because I think that's the term used by the interviewer, but I think he left us with something to think about the way he answered the question. Let's take a look at the video now and see how he handled the question.
Kartel big and bad back in the day. But what about now? Can the world boss regain his crown in a changed musical landscape?
13 years, a long time in anyone's life.
True.
13 years in dancehall, a lifetime.
True.
Can you still be the man, although the sound of the music has changed?
Yeah, the sound of the music changed, but who set the trend? Think about it. Most of the youth them what you see now, them bleach out, them full of tattoo. Who that? A Kartel. Anyone do a DNA right now, half a dancehall of my pick me. Them can't trick me. I remember we adapt, you know, because we always a change your style, we always a change your sound. You see when they walk out of prison in an orange kerchief, in that style, yeah. And right now kerchief raised from $120 to $1,000. Just think about it. We are the trendsetter from day one.
But the kids who always listen to you, they've moved on to other people though.
Yeah, they moved on
to other DJs who have a different sort of vibe and flow.
Yeah, but think about this. If you go up on TikTok right now, who are the biggest trending artists? Vybz Kartel. Who run TikTok? The kids them. So you find you have some 15-year-old girl and some 16-year-old girl a dance to all. She said she want shatter. She now want Harry Potter. Them song they are 20 years old, you know, Mr. Miller. Them song they are 18 years old, 21 years old. And that the kids them have vibes too. Because if you compare me to the nowadays youth them, remember Vybz Kartel that same way the scale got tilt like this. In the same way Bob Marley did from 1981. And when we look for iTunes, him we see stay so. So that's how it go. Good music can't dead man. And great man live forever.
So me see up to the time, you know it's Vybz Kartel.
So what did you represent to the system for them to view you as a kind of threat?
Them I say, me mash up the picnic them and I lead them astray. Some I say, me have too much influence. So me feel like it's a combination of that. It's not the entire system, you know. Because me not the system, because the system does work. I saw it going on. See me, them used to fight Bob Marley. And Bob Marley never sing a gun song yet. So it was never about the lyrics. See me, them fight Bob Marley and he never do a gun song. He never tell the girl them fi wine pan them head top. So what them is a fighting for? It was always about the influence.
Some people will take offense at the comparison with Bob Marley.
No man no more than a man. I can't compare myself with all Jesus. No man no more than a man. When you walk on the earth, you're no more than me.
What do you think you represent to the youth today?
Legend, uncle, godfather.
You did go to prison for 13 years, but the fascination preceded your incarceration. Why are people so fascinated by you?
Because I do things my way. I think of that. In the same way when the system rise against me, I stand up on my 2 foot and I fight it. People respect the underdog who can fight back and win, you know. And people respect a youth to come different. So it's just a combination of a lot of things that make Vybz Kartel so appealing. Because remember, I stay a prisoner and sell gold and silver, you know. And get artists of the decade, you know. Which the decade they are prison me there.
You were busy in prison churning out music.
They want me to do Anthony Miller, I couldn't bake. Me are no baker. So our music need to feel right through. As the comedian say, you have to do a one line and a peep if nobody will come. Fever! And I look if the you know, but yeah, man.
Plus, some people were on your side in the institution who were representative of the institution.
No, I don't know about that. I don't know about that.
Did you have to hide and do it?
Yeah.
I love how your style the place.
But you entered prison a star. Did you get star treatment?
I never get ill treatment. Mr. Reed, you can't take on my phone again. Big up still.
The Return Show, set to pull tens of thousands of Kartel-starved fans to his first post-prison performance. He says it will be in December. Or is that too soon? Mentions a couple names he'd want alongside him on that stage.
I like people still, you know. So, I don't know. Spice, you know, Skilly Bang.
Are the offers coming in? Can you even take some of those calls?
Yeah, man, I take the call them. I love money. The first show in December, Jamaica. We have Trinidad, we have Bahamas, and we are negotiate right now for Grenada and Barbados. So we'll be spinning there like tornadoes. Well, I'm not give you the location, you know, but I think you know what the promoter. I can't go one man campaign, you know, because it's a hefty sum. Yeah.
What are your expectations?
Mr. Miller, one thing I want to tell the people them out at the airport. I want to better build some more runway. Because I said I show you, I think the venue will about 50 to 100,000 people. I mean, I tell you, say, when the venue full with 100,000 people, me know say 100,000 people are outside. I mean, I talk to them outside, I talk straight.
And those 13 years would have taught you what lesson in particular?
Time is precious. Don't play with it. And as much as you can, stay out of bad energy. Because sometimes you don't have to do nothing, you know. You can just step on a corner with your little school friend, you know. And you don't know your school friend a gunman, you know. A man come and fire be a shot and you dead, all your school friend escape, you know. So as much as you can, you stay out of negative energy. And just know that time is precious. And when it's gone, you can't get it back. You know, that's the biggest lesson.
You have any political aspirations?
Well, one thing I know, if I run for MP, I can't lose. That's what I'm sure about. And I could leave it at that.
What would be the first thing that would occur to you to say to people based on the accumulated experience of 13 years in prison?
Time is so precious. You can't get it back. You can't get back money. Because I say, if I come from prison, amount of money when I get back. Although me never broke the amount of money me have to spend for fight that case. Yeah. As enough as it is, me almost make it back already. But to me, the money not even, I said just for even hold my granddaughter and my aunt and them thing there. Them thing there right now important to me. Set me free. Hey, here. Y'all run down the Gaza youth. What you expect me to do? Love them. Tender touch them. But I see them every day. I'm out.
So they call him intelligent, call him the lyrical genius, the GOAT even. If he runs, can he win? Mr. McLean, Mr. Patterson.
Never.
Your reason.
What people look to for some things, they don't look for all things. Believe me,
Right.
if he should run, a lot of even individuals that is bona fide supporter, they're not going to vote for him. That's how trapped we are.
Right.
That's how trapped we are. And not only that, as they would say, when the men in the black suits come out, you see a different part of Jamaica. There are things that, there are forces, should I say, there are forces that prevent a lot of things. And I think that's going to be one of the things that's going to happen to him if he decides to run.
Right. So Patterson, you want to close us off on that?
Sure. Well, first of all, I think that any Jamaican has a right to offer themselves a service if they so desire. And given his popularity, based on what I saw the other day when he came out of prison, and persons were not afraid, they were not ashamed to go out and show their love and support for him, I think he has a better chance than most persons to win. The question is, what would he do if he wins? What kind of policies does he have in mind? In the current structure in Jamaica, when you run for office under any of the two colonial parties, you're really not running on your own agenda, on your own manifesto. You're running on the party's manifesto, and you're going to be controlled by the internal system of that party, by the party hierarchy and leadership. So even if he runs, his impact would be minuscule if he were to choose to run for either of the two colonial parties, because they're not invested in any form of real change for Jamaica. So he would only be running as a form of cosmetic. And I'm sure one or the other party would be happy to have him be a part of their contingent, because he would help them to win in the constituency that he's running for. And he would also help them to win nationally with a broad cross-section of Jamaicans who have a great affinity towards him as a person. So he would bring goodwill. He would add value to their campaign for some people. There are others who will totally disagree with me and say he would have no value at all, but that's only because they do not see the value that others will see in him. So just like how you may not like his genre of music, and other people like that, those who like that would be influenced by him in a positive way to go out and exercise their franchise on his behalf. So I wouldn't count him out. I wouldn't. In fact, I think he has a greater chance of winning than losing, because remember also, here's how things work. If a Jamaican goes, an ordinary Jamaican goes to a constituency and say, I am running, their chance of being elected is near zero if they're not in one of the two colonial parties, right? So the same person might stand in front of them and nobody will vote for him. They'll give him 0 votes, if any, right? If or maybe 1 or 2. But if he suddenly becomes a green or an orange, he will get at least 3,000 votes or whatever, because the persons aren't really voting for him or her per se. First of all, they're voting for the party and then for him. Now, in the case of Vybz Kartel, he will be carrying a lot of goodwill with him, unlike the ordinary man or woman who may choose to run, because he would have name recognition, face recognition. He's already famous. Also, never forget that Jamaica's politics is primarily a vote-buying exercise. There'll be very few who are endowed like him to be able to spend money in the constituency. And our people love them belly. So if he goes into a constituency and he's able to buy drinks and give out goodies, coupled together with his already massive popularity and being able to then truly engage in the normal practice of vote buying in that constituency, he would very likely win. Very likely, very, very likely. I would be shocked if he actually loses, because he has all the right ingredients for the kind of politics we have in Jamaica. The kind of politics. We're not talking about a country where the people are, you have a large contingent of electors who are going to be doing careful analysis based on, key issues in the country, crime and violence and economy and healthcare and education. You can go to a constituency where you actually say nothing at all about any of those issues and win if you're on one of those 2 colonial parties and have enough money to kind of spread around in the community and make people feel good. If you can hold parties across the community and people come and get free drinks and free food, if you can give out school vouchers to people, give them a little voucher to go get some school books, all of those things are what wins election in Jamaica, unfortunately. And so when you're assessing a candidate, you have to look at it beyond just the intellectual way that you or I might want to look at it, and look at the reality, the very culture that has been created. And again, who has created that culture? Who has created that culture? Who has brought us to this level where that is how we elect people, not because they are the most qualified and competent to help us to fix the real issues, but because they have the backing of those who will allow them to buy the votes of a segment of our society who are available for sale, who have been kept hungry, who have been kept oppressed and depressed to the point where they even love their oppressors. They would welcome them with palm branches and say, Hosanna to the highest, and walk them through the streets. They would die for them. And many Jamaicans have already died for these 2 political parties. They'll do anything for them because of how the system has been structured. But Mr. Chair or moderator, we haven't commented on anything on the chat section here. Persons have been chatting away and we haven't acknowledged them or really said anything about them. I don't know if you can see things that people are making online. Can you see them?
Not entirely.
Oh,
I
can see them on my side here.
Okay, you can go ahead and
somebody says, I'm going to go from the bottom up. Somebody says, Hawk Angel says he has an accomplished attorney who advises him. So whether or not he would run for either traditional party. So what Mr. or Mrs. or Miss Angel is saying is that his attorney might influence him. We all know that ISAT is a strong supporter of the of one of the 2 colonial parties, and you might recall that Mr. Kartel was wearing some orange kerchief. I see where he has shifted to white, and I heard that he also wore blue, so I'm not sure what any of that means. I see here the same person says, hence Mr. Patterson, that's why he answered that political question the way he did and not aligned himself to any. Remember, you all acknowledge that he is smart, and if so, that he wasn't. Okay, well, I did not say he was smart or not, but others have said that, and I'm not disputing it. But I see your point. He did not openly align with anyone, even though he said he loves a particular color in one of the interviews that he did. Monica Richards says UIC fundraiser and youth teacher. Not sure what she's referring to there, but good to see you on, Monica. Lenford Wilson says, my brother, and I'll put that on screen here. My brother, if he run, he will win. The youth is with him. And another person here says, the same majority who has supported him all those times will support him again. Bola says, facts, Mr. Patterson. Not sure what he was referring to there. Somebody here says, one are dead, no call it duppy. That's quite a term I used to hear before, many years ago, my grandmother. Thanks for the reminder there. One are dead, no call it duppy. In other words, no write him off. I mean, he may not fit into your narrative, but, yeah. And somebody says the majority who votes are poor. Somebody says if he's not interrupted, he will win. What do we have here? Another person says, time would tell, never say never. And this person says, that's Ronald B. Mr. Patterson is not just in Parliament and the PSOJ, but also the IMF and the CIA and the Zionists. Mr. Moderator, could I comment on this, if you don't mind?
Yes, for sure.
Mr. McLean, if you want to jump in there, just let us know. But this point here, the point Mr. Ronald is making is that it's not just the Parliament and the PSOJ which influences Jamaica and creates some of the outcomes that we see and so on. But I must say I take a different position. And I take this position only because I have carefully researched the matter. The CIA and the IMF and the World Bank, I hear some scratching.
McLean, is that your background?
Could you mute your mic, Mr. McLean? Mute your mic. Maybe something is happening there. Yeah, so neither the CIA, the IMF, or the World Bank, or the Zionists, or whoever, is Jamaica's problem. Now, yes, the colonizers did their damage for 400 years. Yes, they remained in Jamaica and are still involved in Jamaica in various ways. But at the end of the day, our leaders or misleaders, they have the responsibility to lead the people aright. And if you think it can't be done, Lee Kuan Yew proved to us in real time, in the same incubator, the same experimental period that we went through. They got independence in 1965. We got independence in 1963. They were a former colony. We were a former colony. They were colonized by the British. We were colonized by the British. The British left them in a worse condition. They were in a very bad condition, in fact, worse condition than Jamaica, and they overcame. They were also caught up in the same geopolitics of the time, the Cold War between USSR and the USA, and they overcame the very same challenges because they had leaders who truly loved and cared for and wanted only the best for their people. And so regardless of what the IMF may try to do, or what the CIA may try to do, or what the Zionists may try to do, they could not control the minds of our leaders unless our leaders decided they wanted to be controlled. And our leaders chose to be controlled because they preferred short-term benefits that would enrich them and give them lordship over us rather than the pain of doing what is right and doing it right, so that over the long term, we would be a better country. We are reaping the rewards or the punishment or penalty of the choices of our leaders from the 1930s until today. The people of Singapore are reaping the rewards and the benefit of their leaders from the 1930s until today. It's very simple. So I don't want to blame the Zionists. I don't want to blame the CIA. I don't want to blame the IMF. I want to blame who I know fully could have made different choices. Who is stopping our government, for example, from making sure we have a quality education system that would cause our young people to make better choices? Who is stopping our government from ensuring we have a truly free and fair economy that is not dictated by high levels of corruption and nepotism and outright robbery through regulations designed to oppress small businesses while giving big business a free pass? Who? Our leaders are making those decisions. Yes, they're influenced by bad people inside and outside of Jamaica, but it's their choice. If you elect a leader that is committed to your development, you'll get those results. If you continue to elect those who have proven themselves incapable or unwilling to do what is right, you'll also get those results. Next point, somebody here, Silver Cat. Take this one, Mr. Nelson. He says, Mr. Patterson, Kartel and many artists is a problem to the country. I'll let you respond to that, Mr. Nelson.
I mean, it once again, it depends on Silver Cat. It really depends on your viewpoint and which direction you're coming from. You know, as Mr. Patterson stated early on, you know, we have a systemization problem. We have a society problem in which our leaders are not really being true leaders. Our leaders are not framing the country in such a way in which our young people or people in general can become effective and productive in all spheres of life. And I think that is the root of the problem. I wouldn't necessarily say that Kartel and other artists are the main problem in the country. As we spoke early on in the discussion, we talked about the culture and the cultural influences of these young artists and where they're coming from and where they're getting the music from and what is inspiring them. So it is a complex thing and it's a complicated thing. I would not personally say that Kartel and these artists, they are the problem. If there's anything I would say is perhaps they contribute perhaps a small percentage of the problem. But I think the broader sphere of thing, we have to look towards our governance and our leadership. It's always going to fall back on leadership and governance. It's always going to fall back on those who are spearheading our society. So I would definitely not blame Kartel and other artists. And in all fairness to Kartel and other artists, there's a lot of positive that they bring to the society, believe it or not. You know, we all have faults, and you know, there's a flaw in every segment of society. But I think it would be unfair to say that Kartel and other artists, they are the problem.
Let me suggest something to the viewer. Suppose you take a child on the day that he or she learned to suckle and is weaned from his mother, and take that child to a community deep in the jungles of Australia and leave that child with the Aboriginal peoples of Australia, where they don't speak English and they dress very scantily and they put on marks on their faces and they eat in a peculiar way and they sing in a peculiar way and dance in a peculiar way. And 20 years later, you bring this child back, take this child back from the Aboriginals and bring them to Jamaica. Who would that child resemble? And who will they gravitate towards? Would they gravitate towards our dancehall music, or would they be trying to find what they're familiar with, what they're used to, what has now become their culture? Even though the child is actually a Jamaican child, but as a baby, you drop them in Australia with the Aboriginals. So they learn the Aboriginal way, the Aboriginal flavor, and even the dance of the Aboriginal, and the music and the painting of the face and everything. And they don't like wear clothes. They want to have just a few things on and whatever. When you bring them back to Jamaica, they won't be in Jamaica. They won't like Vybz Kartel. They won't like, nothing that you like is what will be their fascination. They would be wanting to go back to what they're used to. Now, Vybz Kartel and all the other artists that we're talking about, they express what they're used to. And the children who are attracted to them are attracted to what they're used to. Vybz Kartel, you and I wished that he would have very different songs, very different lyrics, very different whatever. And somebody else here said we should ban them. We should ban. I do not believe in banning. I believe in educating. I believe in empowering. And if we were rightly educating our children, and if we were rightly empowering our people, they would find their entertainment in other ways, and they'll find their influences in other people. They're finding their entertainment and their influence where they're finding it because of how they have been cultured. And when we understand that, then this person says it nicely here. This person says, the problem we're talking about is just a symptom. Let's get to the root. And the UIC is about understanding the root cause, going from cause to effect, not from effect to trying to building a solution without understanding the cause. Another person here wrote and says, truth, Mr. Patterson, it was all designed from the top of society to keep us divided, destabilized, and mentally disturbed. And yes, we're seeing the result of that mental disturbance. We're seeing where the culture created by our leaders has led us. The culture in Singapore, for example, if I go into one of the malls or into a park and I leave, my wallet drops out of my pants pocket, or my wife leaves her handbag on the chair, somebody is going to take it up and call the authorities and hand it in. There's a 99% chance of that. If you go into the malls in Singapore, they don't, most of them don't have shutters on their stalls and stuff. They just draw a little line in a little cloth thing across, a little thing, and just say, we're closed right now, and you see closed on it, and all the wares are still out. Just lying there. You could go and take one up if you are brave enough to do so. But the people have been so cultured that stealing is not a norm. Corruption is not a norm. I spend time around there, young people, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 25. And I mean, they're always about production, about producing, they're so orderly and about getting their things done. And I'm like, where does that come from? It comes from leaders who lead their country in a way that inspires them to want to be producers, as opposed to blaming the end results of their misleadership. Yeah? All right. So thank you, Silvercat. Thank you, Promo Links. Thank you, Monica Richards. Thank you, Samuel Landgren, Wade Noble. Big up yourself, my friend. And many others here. Thanks to all of you for your contribution tonight. I can't get through all of the comments, but thank you very, very much for being here with us tonight. It was a pleasure, and I hope to see you again soon. Back to you, Mr. Moderator.
Yeah, I don't think we have time to jump into the next topic. Perhaps we can refer to another time. What do you think?
Absolutely.
But it was a very good discussion. A lot of good points was made, and I'm pretty sure, based on what we're seeing in the comments, people are connecting and agreeing, and some still have questions. Mr. McLean, you want to give a closing thought?
It was inspiring to say. There has been something on my mind for years when it comes to like leadership, because I'm yet to be led by someone in Jamaica that I'm proud of. I would say I'm proud to be under their leadership or governance when it comes to like prime ministers and so on. There was an interview done back in the days with Manley where they were talking about Cuba, and Manley gave out saying how stupid it would be to not be allies with Cuba when they are so close. But yet America was trying to stop their combination or stop their friendship with Cuba. And within that interview, I looked at it and I was saying, this man is a man with vision. Because if it wasn't for that man with that vision, we and Cuba would not be allies today. And many times Cuba came to our aid. Many times. What I'm saying is, we need someone that we can look up to. Definitely need someone that we can look up to and be proud of. We go to any country and we can say, yes, this is my prime minister proudly. This is my president proudly, because they are making changes. That's what we definitely need. Some integrity when it comes to governance in this country.
Well,
that's what I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. McLean. Mr. Moderator, I have a different view of Michael Manley. I know that he's highly beloved by the Jamaican people, many Jamaicans, not everyone, because we're quite polarized. You have some who are highly beloved of Mr. Edward Seaga and others who are highly beloved of Michael Manley. And you still have residue of those who remember Norman Manley and those who remember Buster Manley. But what I find is that most Jamaicans are not informed about the leadership of these four men and others in between, like B.J. Patterson and Bruce Golding and Portia Simpson Millen. And some are more current on Andrew Holness at the moment. But I don't think we do a good job, and that's because of our education system. We do not teach our children fully about these leaders. We just have anecdotal information. It's not a part of your curriculum where you studied the life and times of Michael Manley, for example, and the life and times of Hugh Shearer and Donald Sangster. And that's not in our curriculum. And this is dangerous. Jamaica's political experience is not in our curriculum. The children don't learn what really happened, who did what, when, why, what were the influences at the time, what were the different players around that. So a lot of us are living off hearsay, partial information, minuscule experiences, because some of us might, for example, I grew up with my mom, who was a member of one of the two colonial parties, a strong member, grassroots member who worked aggressively to elect candidates in her constituency. And I was a boy at 6 years old with her. I remember the 1976 elections. I was 5 years old, and I was a part of that as a kid, fully involved and seeing and hearing things right through to the 80s election and being a part. So, and let me just tell you something about Michael Manley that I don't think people understand what Michael Manley did or didn't do. Michael Manley did not need to sacrifice Jamaica for his friendship with Cuba. There's no need for him to have sacrificed us for friendship with Cuba, because nobody was against Michael Manley having a friendship with Cuba. Michael Manley made that an issue. Michael Manley brought that to the fore. Michael Manley beat his chest about it. in the middle of a Cold War where you had two powerful countries with vested interest, the USSR, which was promoting communism, a system whereby the state controls everything and the people became wards of the state, controlled by the state, and the USA, which was spreading a propaganda of democracy and freedom as a disguise for their intentions of controlling the wealth and resources of other nations, primarily oil. And these two countries, one which is a quasi-European country, meaning America, which was taken from the Indians by the Europeans, and by extension became a European nation in the Western Hemisphere, and another European nation, USSR, both of them vying for territory, which has always been the kind of colonial conquest of the European nations, always seeking to conquer others. America had a different format of it, just like how today China has a different format of colonization. They colonize through debt. America colonized through the so-called spreading of democracy and freedom and death while playing games behind the scene, and Russia pursuing its agenda. No. Michael Manley chose to fight that geopolitical battle in a way that he was certain to lose. And then we became the sacrificial lamb for the approach that he took. Lee Kuan Yew in Singapore faced the very same existential threats as Jamaica or any other developing nation, with two powerful nations fighting each other for territory and for lordship over other countries in different ways and formats. Okay? There's no need for us to pick any sides. What our leader needed to do was to understand the geopolitical context and play your cards right and protect the interest of your people. We don't need for Jamaica to become a dependent of Cuba. We don't need for Jamaica to become a handout recipient from Cuba or any other country. But we have programmed our people to love handouts. And so Jamaica's developed a culture of always looking for some other country coming to give we something, as opposed to being able to give ourselves. We need a leader, and we needed leaders who would understand the geopolitics and how to be a diplomatic participant in that arena and diplomatically dance between the raindrops, hop, skip, and jump over the landmines and navigate our people to where we needed to be, which was a country where we would have developed our human capital sufficiently that we now have to beg nurses and doctors from Cuba. Develop our education product sufficiently so that we are producing the engineers to fix and build our roads and our hospitals. Developing our agricultural sector so that we would have food independence. Developing our energy sector so that we would have energy independence like Costa Rica. Developing our political system so we move away from what we know will fail, because Africa proved it before us. You cannot use fool, so-called partisan politics, democracy to move your country forward. It does not work. Lee Kuan Yew in Singapore understood all of this thing, and he was there the same time as our leaders. Lee Kuan Yew went to similar school in Britain as Norman Manley. And Michael Manley went there to study economics in Britain. But Lee Kuan Yew was wise enough to not trust the education of his colonizers. He challenged all of it. He challenged their ideas of democracy. He challenged their ideas of partisan politics. He challenged their ideas of economics. He challenged their idea of media and communication and the press. He challenged it not by beating him chest in the public sphere and giving grand speeches, but by doing the hard work at the grassroots level in his country to motivate and inspire and build his people. And when they were big and strong, then he went on the world stage and thought, we chat too much. We have leaders who love to go talk, love to go to conferences and seminars and like the one in Barbados and just chat, and don't understand global economics, global banking, monetary systems, and how to now redesign your country quietly. You don't have to go fight with America and tell them that you know a system better than theirs. No, build it a yard and let them worry about for them problem. Let America fight with Russia all they want. And you just say to America, America, we're here to trade if you want to trade. USSR, no Russia, we're here to trade if you want to trade. China, we're here to trade if you want to trade. And make sure we trade. Make sure the trade is not one way, where we are importing 3 times the amount we're exporting. Make sure you build your local economy. If Manley had just shut him out and focus on building the Jamaican people, stop making wonderful statements. Just making all kind of statements and saying all kind of wonderful things, and know you can't fund it. After you tell the people them to go here and not come mess with you, you then want them to come give you loans and grants to run your country? Don't be an idiot. Take time, pull your hand out of the lion's mouth. Instead, you're going to tell them off, but then go to them to beg money. Suppose somebody tell you off, Mr. Nelson, cuss you, and then come to you and want to borrow money from you. Would you lend them normally?
The phone call would probably go to voicemail.
Exactly. And anybody who said they would lend them is a damn idiot. The bottom line is this: Manley was not effective in his diplomacy, nor did he understand economics. Because what Manley did, Manley promised the people that they're going to get to heaven, and then he went and borrowed a whole heap of money, and he gave them tractors and seeds and everything, all of these things, without understanding what does this mean. The people them sell the seed, thief the pieces of the machinery and sell it, or put it on their own thing, and the whole project failed. All of the many cooperative farms that he tried to set up failed, because you have to understand economics and you have to understand human behavior. So if you're going to tell people you're going to take them from here to there, make sure you understand how you're going to do it, and don't go and lie yourself publicly and powerfully with Cuba when Cuba can't help you in the way that you want to help, unless you were hoping for something else to happen on another side with another set of people and create a certain outcome. And you've set yourself up for Mr. Seaga and his own team now to play right into your demise. And we can talk about Mr. Seaga too, about his failings, you understand? Because Mr. Seaga focused on winning at all costs. I will win at all costs. I'll do whatever it takes to win. And that's the mentality of our politics today. Our politicians win at all costs, including sacrificing the Jamaican people in the process. But Mr. McLean, Mr. Nelson, what I hope we take away from this conversation, this part of the conversation, is a need for us to really get all of the facts, step back a little bit from the anecdotes of our parents and grandparents and the half-truths and distorted information, and step back and say, hold on a second. Why would the CIA focus on Manley and Jamaica and leave Singapore and allow them to become wealthy and rich? When Singapore embarked on this journey, all of them, the CIA, the National Report, the leadership of America, they all said Singapore is going to fail. It's documented. They all said Singapore cannot. There's no way a country the size of St. Thomas with no industry developed. The British have left with everything and just give them a port that was there. The port could be good or not, depending on how you use it. They just left the port and said, that's it, we're gone. No education, poor education. They're fighting linguistic wars, Bush communist wars, ethnicity problems, no cohesion, and they're the size of St. Thomas. Okay, they're finished. They're over. The Malaysians know that Singapore is going to be dead. Hong Kong, Singapore is going to be dead. China, Singapore is going to be dead. America and Britain, Singapore is going to be dead. What Singapore got was a basket full of holes. Our leaders, on the other hand, what did the two colonial parties get when the British left us? coffee industry, sugar industry, banana industry. Soon bauxite would come on stream. Airline was already in play. Transportation system, a pretty good network of road, quite a few reservoirs, water reservoirs, a functioning train system, telecommunication lines already run. They had a very good springboard from which to move off. And today, what have you seen? One by one, all of these things dead. No real reward. Coffee is killed. Banana is killed. Sugar is killed. Bauxite is there. They're oxing out our life. The land is our life. They're destroying it. And while they're doing that, you're not getting the benefit of bauxite. The cost of bauxite is outweighing the benefit of bauxite. Crime has gone up. Back in 1960s, the crime rate was 66 murders per year. Now we're always brushing between 1,500 and 2,000 murders per year. Our education system at one point was actually quite robust. Now look at what we're producing coming out each and every year. So let us be careful and understand truly where the problem is. And I submit to you that it's all and entirely in the hands of the two colonial parties and the PSOJ that knowingly funds the criminal and corrupt enterprise that we see today as the two-party system.
I think that's a perfect place to end it tonight.
That's true.
Thank you, guys.
Yes,
we'll meet again soon.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye. Good night, everyone.